I'm Father D.
And I'm Phil.
And we're the robe and the suit. A Christian podcast combining varying perspective and a witty debate on the impact of the Orthodox word on everyday life. Hey, Phil.
What's up, Father?
How you doing?
I'm good.
We are at the Sunday of the Holy Cross, and this is one of those Sundays that I think many of our people are familiar with. Everybody wears a cross, right? They're light, they're dainty, they're made out of silver, they're made out of gold, they're comfortable, they're nice to look at, they're shiny, and sometimes we don't really stop and think about what is the true cross? What does the cross really symbolize, right? And today we're gonna maybe upset some people.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I mean, this is a simple one. This was one of my favorite ones when I was in the altar.
Okay.
Because of the tray with all the flowers and the cross, and we did the procession around the church. This is simple.
Okay.
The cross is our logo. We're Orthodox Christians. Wear it proudly. Certainly, it was a torture mechanism back in the day.
Right.
So it does symbolize death. It symbolizes the dark side, but it also symbolizes hope, resurrection. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, what do you got? You got some new things to teach
that's
me,
it.
right?
Let's wrap it up. See you later, folks. See you next week.
It's our logo, Nike, Apple.
That's it. Right.
It's our logo. Target, American Express. Everybody has a logo. It's a little different. The NBA logo. It's Jerry West. You got the NFL shield. We got the cross. We're Christians.
We got the cross.
Okay.
The symbol of life over death.
Yes.
That's it. Well, it is what is pretty amazing when you think about it is to take something that is so horrendous, right? The cross is one of mankind's most ingenious methods for extending someone's torturing and suffering to the nth degree.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
Right? I mean, the Romans came up with these methods that were just so cruel.
Yeah.
And so humiliating, right? These guys were up there most likely nude. Right? So you're shaming them, you're humiliating them, you're breaking them.
Big time.
I mean, in every facet of their body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
You're hanging them from their limbs, you're nailing them with God knows rusty nails, through their forearms, through their feet. You're breaking their legs when they can't, when they can't support themselves anymore. You die from asphyxiation. That's how you die because your lungs essentially collapse from the weight. Your shoulders dislocate. You've been whipped. You've been starved. You have nothing to drink, and you're put on display for everyone to see. Right. So this thing was reserved for the absolute criminal of criminals, the most despicable members of society. And how do you take this really ugly thing?
It was,
and transform it.
It was one man that did it. One incredible
human being.
Human being at the time.
God, human.
Yes.
Right? Fully God, fully human. How do you take this symbol of death and torture and turn it into a symbol of triumph and a symbol of life?
Yeah. The resurrection, the reincarnation. It is amazing when you think about, the gruesomeness.
Right.
Yet, how then it's on us, anymore. I think when I was younger, you kind of wore it in, your cross inside your T-neck and you did your stuff. Later, it became much more prominent. People were always wearing their cross outside. Now, you see a lot of crosses. There's tattoos everywhere. People got crosses on their faces, on their necks. I mean, the cross is an incredible Christian symbol. for many, it is the rebirth, the resurrection of whatever they believe in and their faith.
Right.
That's why, for the most part, we celebrate it. We understand it. We understand that much. And we celebrate the fact that it's a symbol of resurrection. Now, you're telling me there's a little bit more to this.
Right.
That, we need to get our head around.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to understand how far where we're going with this.
Well, the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. So, according to this last Sunday's gospel, it's a short gospel. Okay, so there's not a lot of words or not a lot of text that we have to get into, which is good because sometimes less words is better.
Yeah.
But the meaning behind it is very impactful. Okay, so the one sentence that is so incredibly central to our whole message of the gospel is in this one pericope from the Sunday's gospel. It says, if you want to save your life, you must lose your life.
Yeah.
And this one teaching, to save, you must lose. Jesus is essentially inverting the power structure. He's flipping up everything upside down that the Romans had been teaching, that society had been teaching, essentially saying, if everyone thinks success is building, growing, accumulating,
right.
Getting bigger, getting stronger, getting more.
A collection of all the material elements that we
Right.
have, right? Power, all sorts of goods. The elements of, what we deem as success.
Right.
You're saying those elements are dangerous.
Lead to death. A different kind of death. If you want true life, all of those things essentially don't matter, and we have to die in a way
Right.
in order to truly live.
So you're telling me all these years...
This is going to be a problem. I know that.
I'm just trying to get my head around it.
This is going to be a problem.
Okay? Because, I can see that inversion in the cross we just talked about.
Right.
It's a dangerous element of torture, but it's also the hope and what we believe in and the way we go.
Right.
But you're telling me now, in order to save my life, I have to lose it to some degree.
Right.
Goes to this notion of all these things I've been accumulating my whole life. You go to school, you try to get educated, you try to get to a place where you're accumulating material things, you're taking care of your family, you've got all this stuff, everything's good, you're living a great life, everything's happy-go-lucky, yada, yada. I got to get rid of all that if I'm really going to save myself.
Yes.
And get to redemption.
Yes. You got to sell it.
Oh boy.
You gotta go on eBay. Okay.
There's something not.
You gotta go on eBay. You gotta sell it. Okay. You gotta give it to the poor, and you gotta go follow Jesus.
Right. But that's this is
the
symbolicness.
This was the path for some Christians.
Okay. We got to take it relative to the day and what the message is.
Like St. Anthony, for example, St. Anthony the Great.
Yeah.
Some of the early great church fathers and mothers, this is what they did. They heard this message and they did it. And they got rid of everything. And they lived the most dynamic, earth-shattering, profound lives the world has ever seen.
So they really made it simple.
They really did it.
Right.
They took it purely to heart, and earthly rich wise.
Yes.
They did it. They got rid of everything, and they truly followed Christ, and they changed the world. So, is that for everybody? No.
Yeah.
And is that essentially what the church is telling all of our people to do today? No. Okay, let's be real.
Right.
So let's break that down.
Yeah. So it's
I'm saying this tongue in cheek. Okay.
No, I get you. I get you because
listeners.
we got to talk about we got to talk about how you carry your cross, pick up your cross, carry your cross, follow me. Right. That's the other side of this journey.
Yes.
So I'm understanding kind of how in the beginning here. The focus is on we're focused on all this during our daily life, right? We're focused about more, whether it's power, whether it's money, whether it's material goods, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Let's get it all going.
Right.
And where we're headed with this is, let's slow down. Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears here.
Right.
And that's part of what the pick up your cross and follow me piece is then, right? I mean, as we think through it, what's your take on that one?
Yeah, let's before we get to pick up the cross, let's stick with how can we, for the modern reader, the modern listener who is attempting to build and accumulate and garner some success in life,
right.
Hear something like this. If you want to save your soul, essentially, if you want to save your real life, right, your divine life,
yeah.
What does Jesus mean when he says, I have to lose my life?
Right.
Because if that means I need to be martyred,
right.
Maybe that's scary. Maybe that's a scary thought. Who's willing to actually go out and take a bullet?
Yeah.
Right?
That's an extreme component.
That's an extreme way to witness for our faith.
But you do slam on the brakes and have to think about this for a second.
Right.
Being caught up in, again, the daily grind, let's call it.
Right.
Again, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're running your own business, you got to figure it out.
Right.
That's the beginning and the end.
Who's going to go out and sell all your Bitcoin and all, and all your maybe
Bitcoin.
Maybe now the time to sell everything. Yeah.
But right. I mean, this is where you got to there's almost like a hit pause.
Yeah.
And slow everything down.
Yeah.
So that we can reflect on what this really means to us.
Right.
So that's the place to start.
Right. Okay.
Hit pause.
So let me ask you a question, Phil. In your life and in your career, the most fulfilled you've ever been, has it ever truly been tied to material, possession, wealth, things, stuff? Or has it been tied to experience, relationships, and people?
Yeah, clearly, it's all been a component of my family life, my experiences with my building my family,
right.
The accomplishments of my children,
right.
The ability to find that time when you get to your parents and you've gotten through, and the relationship with your parents is a lot different as you get older. I mean, look, my mom's 95 years old. I got an incredible relationship with her that is so different than maybe what might be in the bank or my stock portfolio is talking about. So it is about that component. It's about the pride I have with what we did here at the church. Building this church was an incredible thing, but that was, again, it wasn't a material thing, but it was the ability to the experience, the sharing, the celebrating. It always has been, at least for me.
Right.
The people, the experiences. Now, I will say, right. There's a different level of that kind of accomplishment depending on how much you're able to contribute, how much you're able to provide.
Right.
As a provider.
Right.
But it's not about, it isn't about what you're driving or where you're living or what you've got in the closet or your gold or silver. You know what I mean?
Right. And
it is about the people, the experiences.
Now, definitely having financial means to enjoy life does make life more enjoyable, more, comfortable.
Right.
We don't want to be, sleeping in the dirt. And,
But there's a level of that.
We want a roof over our head and we want to be able to have, we want to be able to have electricity, right? And, internet and, right. But with that being said, if our existence and our fulfillment is solely tied to the things that we've accumulated,
right,
which can be just as quickly lost,
yes,
and stolen,
yes,
and burned, right? And lost in an earthquake, right? Or, I mean, a number of ways that things can just be
overnight.
Disappear. They can be gone in an instant. If all of that, if we as a person are tied up in that,
right,
we're bound for failure. We're bound for dissolution as a person, right?
Yeah.
If Dimitri the person, if my whole identity is wrapped up in the things, the stuff, then I'm setting myself up for failure. Yeah. So what Jesus is saying is, if you want to truly live, that attachment to all of those extemporaneous things, this is my interpretation.
Yeah, that's what's got to go. But I mean, think about it.
It has to die.
Make some sense here, right? It does make sense.
It has to die.
It has to die.
And perhaps I can enjoy them even more fully when I'm free to let them go and say, I'm going to enjoy a nice dinner, but I would also enjoy a TV dinner just as much.
Or the pareja, or the friendship I'm going to have with a simpler element.
And that would also be okay. I don't have to have this. I don't have to have that.
Yeah. In that context, letting it go makes a whole lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, it does make a whole lot of sense.
And in our church language, this is where church stewardship comes in.
True.
And this is that great spiritual discipline of becoming a church steward, of becoming a church supporter, where we encourage our faithful to donate to the church, right? Where
the giving,
when you're not so attached to the money in your bank. Yeah. And you say, look, I'm going to freely, not because I feel obliged, not because someone's twisting my arm. I know this isn't my money, right? This doesn't belong to me. I'm going to let it go and freely donate, freely give away. Yeah. And it's a spiritual gesture that essentially loosens the bonds, those chains that tie us, that say, I need this. Yeah. I have to have this for my happiness.
And I'm going to accumulate more of it.
Right, because just like, let me ask you this, and I love this example. Mm-hmm. When you breathe, right? Yeah. Do you only breathe in? If I were to tell you, Phil, take a big breath in right now. Yeah. And hold that breath.
Yeah, no, at some point I got to let it go.
No, do not breathe out. And you just keep breathing in and holding that breath as much as you can. Because don't you dare let it go.
That's not good, Father.
What would happen?
I would end up in a really bad place. I would I would implode.
You would suffocate.
I would suffocate. I would die. Not. I would. Yeah. That's a great example.
And as soon as you, you let it go. And what happens? The breath, it comes right back. Right. So this Sunday is that exhaling where you breathe it out. You essentially drop it. You drop those attachments. You drop that need to cling, to attach, to hold, to control. It might be people. Yeah. Our need to attach to people, our need to control situations, our need to control our children, our need to control other people, our need to control our lives.
Yeah. The pressure of all of that.
Because we can't control everything. Yeah. So by letting things go, somehow they naturally find their way back to us.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. It's almost like the boomerang piece.
Right. Wait, what's that? What's a boomerang
So
piece?
when you throw the boomerang out into the distance,
right,
it comes back.
Right.
Because of the way it's designed, the way you throw it.
Right.
You lose it for a minute.
Right.
And you go, oh my God, is it really going to come back?
Right.
It comes back.
Oh, you mean like
when you throw it?
Yeah, you're like an actual boomerang.
The boomerang.
Oh, I thought you meant like there was a book called The Boomerang.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there is.
Okay.
I know there's a couple. I'm sure there's a couple of books that talk about this.
Okay.
When in today's world, too, it's having this conversation.
Sure.
This notion of experiences versus material goods. You can see it in what's happening today, particularly coming out of the pandemic.
Right.
Everything you read about in the consumer spending environment is about experiences, travel, being with your people, having it all together. So
Right.
It's not as much about buying the new TV or buying a big car. Money's being spent on experiences.
Right.
Which brings us back to this notion of, okay, now I get it. I'm free of the material goods. It's more important. But then this notion of carrying it forward, which we were
Right.
talking about, is a component of this too. So now we know what the cross really means.
Right.
About the breathing and the, moving forward.
Right.
Letting go.
Maybe letting go of our life.
Yeah. Which I can see how that means, what that means now. Letting go of your life so you can relive your life.
Right.
But then this notion of carrying your cross is a completely...
Yeah.
So carrying your cross is an element that we've got to focus on to complete the cycle.
Yes.
Knowing that it's either giving when you carry your cross,
Right.
or it has other implications with respect to the stewardship you were talking about. It just goes beyond you.
Right.
It's doing these other things
Right.
that will carry you into more of a redemption, more of a ecclesiastical spiritual life, which symbolizes the re-resurrection of what you just gave up.
Right. Right. Because when Jesus said, deny yourself, right? We just talked about that.
Yeah.
All that denial.
Yep.
You pick up your cross and follow me.
Yeah.
And everyone's got a different cross. No two crosses are the same, but it's your cross. You pick it up without complaint,
Yeah.
and you follow him. And it sounds simple, and sometimes it is simple. Sometimes we really overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be that complicated.
I can see how it connects to being liberated.
Right.
And resurrected.
Right.
To some degree, which is the other side of what we were talking about, the cross.
Well, and that's where we're essentially going in Lent, is we're going towards the resurrection. We're going towards Pascha. And hopefully through this journey, when we sing Christos Anesti, when we sing Christ is risen, when the light of illumination passes through the church, right? And the tomb has been opened.
We're out of the darkness.
And we're out of the darkness, and we've carried our cross, right? We've walked with Christ through Gethsemane, through all these darkened chambers, and we can experience our own resurrection because we have actually felt our own crucifixion, our own death, and then we are sort of transformed.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Man, a simple little cross.
That's it, man.
It's a little logo, man.
Yeah,
It was
man.
a logo, but I
Yeah,
guess
bro.
now we got more. Now we got more to
It's
think
heavy.
about as we talk about this small little thing we wear around our necks as Orthodox Christians, and what it really
burden-
means to live it.
The burden of existence, my friend, is very real.
It is.
The burden of existence, and we shoulder our share. And when we're strong enough, we shoulder one another's burdens.
It is. That's an incredible.
So let us carry our burden with strength, with dignity, and with bravery.
You know what's amazing though, Father? I got to
What's
tell you
that?
this here because this is a great story.
All right.
There's more of that comes. You understand it more. You pick it up more as you get older. As I reflect on this conversation, this was something I would have never thought about when I was 30. You know, I mean, I knew a little bit about it. I touched the tip of the iceberg, but I'm hoping that everybody they think about this and we talk about it, they get it earlier because it does make an impact. Because the longer you go, the longer you live, the more you accumulate, the more you've got, the more you got to carry.
Right.
So maybe it's time, as we get a lot older, to let go of all that stuff.
That's it.
And
you can't take it with you.
No, definitely not.
So donate it all to church.
You know what? Yeah.
All right.
You know what? I think that's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to leave you my
I'm
address.
going to let it go, baby. You're going to have a whole carload of stuff coming your way. Thank you, Father.
All right, Phil.
Great.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
my brother.
Bye. And that's a wrap for The Robe and the Suit, a Christian podcast combining varying perspective and witty debate on the impact of the Orthodox word on everyday life.
Download and listen wherever you get your latest podcasts.
There's no need for you to dress up. Leave the robe and the suit to us.
And jump in the fray.